All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live. So today I'm going to be talking about why, if we want to create a new world, we need to start living from a third way. We need to step out of fight and we need to step out of flight, which is how most of us live our lives. So we can step into real awareness, real empowerment, real forward-thinking action, and how that third way is going to come through self-introspection. So now, before I get into all of this, I want to say two things before we get started. Number one, I am not saying we should only sit in our rooms and stare at our belly buttons, and that if we just vibrate and do our inner work enough, the whole world will change. I'm not saying that. Okay, so if you are hearing or interpreting what I'm saying as don't take action, just sit in your room, work on yourself, just keep doing your inner work, and if you just do your inner work enough, that'll somehow magically change the world, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, there's no magic to this. When we do our inner work, we change how we behave. We change how we see things. We change how we perceive things. And then we change the way that we process stuff. And we change the way that we live our lives. Because the real truth is, there's no such thing as no action. There's no such thing as living a life where you don't have an impact on the world around you because of your choices. All right? So when we do our inner work, this changes how we interact with the world. And that is what creates a new world. All of us doing that, all of us changing the way that we are reacting and responding to what's going on with us, is the way we change the world. Because everyone changing their reaction, everyone changing their actions, everyone changing their way of being based on higher awareness would create a new world. So this is not magic. Okay, so I am not saying no action. I am not saying we don't do things. Okay? I'm saying we want to slow down so we can do action from a new place. Because if we want something different, we have to do something different. I'm so happy that you've been having such a good time over here being in Rat. I'm happy to be walking your path with you. Thank you. Okay, so if we want something we've never had before, as Thomas Jefferson says, we have to do something we've never done before. And we are absolutely calling for a world we've never had before. Right? When we are looking and we are seeing, we don't want racism, we don't want sexism, we don't want child sex stuff, we don't want governments being in control, we don't want dictatorships, we don't want all of these things. Whatever we're seeing, we don't want all the suffering, we don't want all the injustice, we don't want all of the things that we're seeing in the world that we're seeing. We have to do something we've never done before. We are only going to get it because we do something that we've never done before. Okay? So this is what I'm talking about. And it's going to be triggering and it's going to be hard because our nervous systems are set up to do what we've always done. When we feel threatened and we feel scared and we feel that what we're looking at is threatening and scaring and hurts and we don't like what we're seeing, it triggers us into fight or flight. And when we're triggered into fight or flight, we do what we've always done. We act if we're mobilizers, right? We go to the protest. We scream about it on Facebook. We go manic. Action, 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 action. Because we think, I just got to fix this. I got to change this. I got to defend myself. We watch all the documentaries and we get all the information so that we can feel like we're armed and we're like, nah, I'm ready. Or we go freeze. We go flight. We go, I'm not going to look. I'm just going to pretend like none of this is happening. I'm going to bury myself in my room. I'm going to focus on love and light inside myself and navel gaze, and we do all this, right? We're going to want to do what we've always done. And that's okay. But again, if we want something different, We can't keep doing what we've always done. And change happens on the individual level because society is simply a collection of individuals. As much as it feels like society is the dominant person or group that trickles down all the rules, as much as it feels that way, it's not. We're a collective. We are a collective. And if all of us start to change the way that we act, the collective changes because we are the collective. So, if you're feeling triggered and it sounds to you like I'm saying don't take action, especially if you're a mobilizer, where that's the only thing that feels safe to your nervous system, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to take new action from new place, new awareness. And we have to pause and stop and slow down to get that new awareness. Second thing, I am going to be talking about conspiracy theories, but not in a derogatory sense. I'm not downplaying them. I am not here to tell you what to believe or not to believe. I'm not here to tell you who or what to listen to. I am not here to debunk or tell you my opinion on any of these things, because it doesn't matter what my opinion is. What matters is I'm going to help you navigate this information from a place of nervous system regulation. Because we need to understand that a lot of these things and these sources of information are playing on our trauma. We are being emotionally manipulated by mainstream media just as much as we are by alternative media. Okay? And I'm going to tell you the characteristic of something that is actually founded and based in truth. And I want you to weigh what you're taking in against that. Because this is what's more important. I am not here to tell you what is right or wrong. I want to give you the tools so that you can figure it out for yourself. Because again, in a lot of ways and in a lot of circumstances, truth is relative. So yes, there's ultimate truth. Yes, there's the universal concepts of oneness, and there's the universal concepts of all the universal concepts, whatever. But at the same time, we're all individuals having our individual experience, and what is the right next step for someone right now is not determined by what is the right next step for someone 4 steps ahead of them, right? We kind of have to think of it like we're all on this journey, and maybe we're all even going in the same direction. Maybe we're all going from New York to LA. But if you're in New York, your next step is going to be very different. Your next right step, leaving your house in New York to finding a cab to the airport, say. Your next right step to do that, to get in a cab, will be very different from someone else's right next step who decided to take a road trip and is already almost there, right? Their next step is to take their car and take a left-hand turn. So those 2 steps, get in a cab, take a left-hand turn in the car that I'm driving, are 2 very different steps. They look radically different, and yet they're both right, and they're both taking them in the right direction. So this is why when we look to gurus and leaders and people out there to tell us what the right thing on our personal growth and spiritual development path is, it gets confusing when we get bogged down in them telling you like actual things, like what you should be eating or what you should be doing or how you should be practicing your physical practices or what the right emotional technique is for you right now, or even like the right thing to be focusing on, because it's different for all of us. And we all have to understand that it's a good teacher is going to teach you how to discern what's right and what's right for you right now without giving you the answer, because the answer is different for everybody. And so there is no dogma here. I am not here to tell you what to believe. I am not here to tell you what is right. I am not here to tell you what information to take in and what information not to take in. That's not my job. You are an adult, and I trust you to be on your path and to do what you need to do for yourself. All I can do is offer okay, if it feels like this, you might want to consider this. If it feels like this, you might want to consider this. Here's overarchingly what it feels like when you find truth. Here's overarchingly what it feels like when you get a genuine insight. Here's overarchingly what it feels like when you align with reality, so you can weigh what you're going through against that. So you can determine for yourself what is right and wrong. So that's what I'm here to do. So I am going to speak about these things, but not in a way to convince you one way or another of anything. You believe whatever you need to believe. You look at whatever feels correct for you to look at. You process the way you process. I'm just going to give you some tools for how to process. Okay? So I want to start with talking about the conspiracy theories and that stuff, because I feel like it will help us kind of get going here. So again, we are all living in this world right now where we've been in quarantine. And the entire world got shaken. And everything changed overnight. And that was massive. And I think, right, like, we no longer have to be like, it feels like something big is happening on the planet right now. It's like, okay, we know something big is happening on the planet right now. We're in quarantine. There's a virus. And I didn't mean that. There is a big situation that absolutely shifted the way that most of us have been living our lives and the most of us are living our lives. Okay? And that, for a lot of us, gave us a lot of time to sit and think about things and be on the internet and dive down a bunch of rabbit holes and dig into things that we weren't looking at before. And I think that in a lot of ways, things came to the surface that are very good to have come to the surface. We stopped being so distracted, and so things that we were able to not look at before and be distracted by other things have come to light, and that's good. And at the same time, we have dove in deeper into our social media, internet world, consensus reality, being disconnected from real reality, disconnected from what's really going on, and getting really bogged down in this, if someone says it, it must be true. Or if it's being shared on the internet, it's real. And also this idea of, again, that truth can be negotiated, that we have to convince each other, and that somehow is a sign that something is true the more people believe it. And that's what's taken us in a direction that we don't want to go. Okay? Because again, reality doesn't care what human opinion is. Ever. That's not how reality works. Reality doesn't care. Reality has no morality. Reality has no, I will change for you because you're a good person, or I will change for you because you're a bad person. That's not how reality works. Reality is a structure. And when you break yourself, when you try to go against the structure, you break yourself. That's it. So for instance, reality doesn't care if a little baby who doesn't have the context or the capacity to understand fire puts their hand in a fire. Reality doesn't go, oh, well, that baby couldn't have known. That baby doesn't know that that fire was going to hurt them. So we're going to make a miracle and have the fire not burn their hand. That's not what happens. When a baby puts its hand on the fire, the baby gets a burnt hand. right? Reality doesn't care. If the whole world believed that chocolate cake is good for you, and everyone switched to a chocolate cake only diet, so all we eat is processed flour and butter and sugar, we would all get diabetes. We would all get sick. We would all have nutrient deficiencies. Because reality doesn't care. If we all agree that this is the right way to eat, and we make studies and we do all these things and we have scientific consensus and everyone says this is what it is, if it's not what it is, we will not get the results that we want. Reality doesn't care about human opinion. Reality doesn't change based on human opinion. We can be wrong, and reality doesn't do anything. When we discover something, reality didn't change. Reality was always the way that it was. We finally were just able to observe it the way that it is. So, like I say, being that we've all been like on the internet for the last 8 months or however long it's been since quarantine started, it's dangerous territory because it is taking us out of our lives, out of real reality, out of real interaction with people, real interaction with reality. And because we are a group of people who are already so disconnected from our bodies, so disconnected from feeling, so disconnected from our actual access to what is true and what isn't, we are susceptible to being taken down all these paths that have nothing to do with anything, or very, very little to do with anything. And we're being tricked, and we don't know it. Okay? Because again, reality is felt first and foremost. Reality is experienced first and foremost. We do not learn reality from an intellectual idea. That's not how it works. Reality is experienced. Truth is experienced. So what happened to you is, and again, right, I understand we can tell ourselves stories about what happened to ourselves, and make them mean things that they don't necessarily mean. But that doesn't change the experience and why that experience actually happened and what happened. Okay? Because there is a reason for everything that has happened to you. There is. And I don't mean that in a spiritual, like, there's a higher no. It's cause and effect. Nothing is random. It's many, many people took many, many actions within a system that exists of our reality, and that's why what happened to you happened to you. You were born to the parents you were born to because of a series of events starting all the way back from the beginning of the Big Bang Theory. It was a predictable pattern. You were the egg and the sperm. That's why you have those parents. And then why do you have the traumas that you have? Because you were born to those parents who were born to their parents, who were born into this world, who had their experiences and their perception filtered on top of it, and their misunderstanding of reality, and their misalignments that they then put onto you because they were in control of you. When we were children, we were completely codependent with our parents. We depended on them for everything. They programmed us for how life works. We had to live by their rules because their approval meant our survival. So that's what our nervous systems learned, was reality. Whether or not it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. And in that learning, in that conditioning, we got separated from our feelings. Because in order to do something that's actually harmful to the self, because here's the real truth about the human body, the human self. We are inherently self-preserving. This idea that we have a self-sabotaging mechanism is wrong. Everything that we do is an attempt at self-preservation. Everything we do is an attempt at self-preservation. So what this means is, when we were growing up in our childhoods of origin, whoever and whatever we needed to be, and whoever and whatever we needed to not be, and whatever we needed to do to get our parents' love and approval, is what got wired into our nervous systems as the right way to be. Because our parents' approval was provision. So when we were abandoned, rejected, shamed, ridiculed, misunderstood by our caregivers, we learned that we needed to change our behavior in order to get back into being good. And this is why we're all so obsessed with being good. Because being good equals being approved of and understood, empathed by our caregivers, and then provided for. If they saw you as good, they met your needs. If they saw you as bad, they didn't. So we all learned, again, needs come, needs get met, pain goes away by being loved and understood by someone outside of me. Is this starting to sound familiar with how we work in the world right now? Needs get met and pain goes away by someone outside of me understanding me. Someone outside of me loving me and approving me, of me. And if I just get to this place where I behave and am the way that everyone wants me to be, I will be happy because I will be provided for. I will get everything I need. I will get everything I want. I'll have the money, I'll have the job, I'll have the success, I'll have the car, I'll have the whatever. And then I'm safe. And we all go into nervous system shutdown when we believe we're bad. When someone tells us we're wrong, when someone tells us we're bad, when someone tells us we're doing something incorrect, when we're not measuring up, we're not spiritual enough, we're not fit enough, we're not this or that enough. We all go into fight or flight because to our childhood programmed nervous systems, that's rejection, and rejection equals we're not going to get our needs met, and pain can't go away because we never actually grew in our nervous systems to be autonomous adults who know that the entire world can reject me and I can get my own needs met. If I start to learn to understand myself, if I start to learn to be my own parent, if I start to learn that when I'm in pain, don't cry out, don't act out, don't cope, don't scapegoat, figure out what's going on. And then I can figure out what is going wrong with my life so as to fix it for myself. None of us feel empowered like that. So that's why we live the way that we live. Okay, and then conspiracy theorists and alternative media and mainstream media know that this is how we operate. Both mainstream and alternative media, first and foremost, please listen to this. Mainstream and alternative media are a part of the capitalist economy. Both mainstream and alternative media are a part of the capitalist economy. Meaning, they are doing what they're doing for money. Okay? They are doing what they're doing for money. It's not to say that it's all garbage, but it is to say what gets them money is what gets them eyeballs. So, the mainstream media and the alternative media both have the goal of as many eyes on us as possible, because that's what gets them ad revenue. It's as simple as that. That's what gets them tickets sold to their shows. That's what gets them money, which we all think we need to survive. And what is the thing that gets the most eyeballs? Something moderate something reasonable, something in the middle that says it's not really an extreme either way, it's just this kind of middle thing, or incredibly inflammatory, controversial, outlandish, extreme things. Right? When we all look at the news and we go, like, why don't we ever hear good stories? Because that's boring. That does not stimulate us or trigger us. And so when we're looking at our media, alternative especially, I want you to start to understand that it is designed in a very specific way to be incredibly emotionally manipulative. It is playing on our childhood traumas just as much as the mainstream media is playing on our childhood trauma. Okay? So an alternative media conspiracy theory might start with, look at this horrible thing that's happening. So that already triggers your nervous system. Right? It starts with, it starts with preying on people who already feel disenfranchised by the system. They kind of already know they have you, because they're specifically targeting people who don't follow along with the mainstream narrative. They're specifically talking to people who have specific ideologies, and they know what those things are. Your opinion on vaccines, your opinion on masks, your opinion on health in general, your opinion on medicine, your opinion on the government, your opinion on whatever. They understand you're either disenfranchised or have been hurt by these systems in some way. They understand that. So they automatically prey on that. And they understand that we all now want to identify as woke. We all want to identify as so above the mainstream and so much more enlightened. And clearly everything they believe is stupid. Right? And most of us have that because we have looked into alternative things and we have seen that mainstream stories aren't totally true. And we've been ridiculed. We've been outcasted. We've been told that we're stupid. So we're hurt. We're triggered. We're traumatized. Because remember, what is rejection equal to us? Death. So now we're already in a state of fight or flight. Because we've seen that the thing that everyone else believes is wrong. But if I express that I don't believe that, if I express that I don't go along with that, I'm outcasted. So now, in order to make that okay, I have to make that an identity. Because otherwise it scares the shit out of me too much. And I have to go back. Because being rejected is the worst thing that could possibly happen. So instead of that, instead of going back, because I can't do that, I'm going to go find my group of radicals who all believe what I believe. And we have this echo chamber of we have the truth. And we're so much more woke than everyone else. And we're so much better. And aren't they so stupid, those sheeple? And everything they believe is dumb. And all mainstream narratives are just retarded. And let's look at only the alternative news. And so they get us in with that. Right? That, oh, you're so much more woke. You are the type, they start the thing with, you're the type of person who has an open mind. You're the type of person who knows that everyone else is ridiculous. You have thought about things. You're not a sheeple. They start with getting you with that. And then they take you down this whole rabbit hole of explaining things that are happening in a completely dramatized, us versus them, hero, villain, over-the-top explanation for what's happening. And this also feeds into our childhood traumas of we can't look at a problem in the world and think it's just because of human ignorance. It's just because people don't know what they're doing. It's just because people are people and they're doing their best and they're traumatized and they don't know. Right? We feel in our nervous systems like we have to believe that there's an elite group of people who are organizing and are having this whole plan And it's all this big, thought out, all things have been planned. It's this huge conspiracy network of people and things that have all come together to create this mass narrative, this mass plan. That's evil. Because that actually fits our nervous system idea that there's someone out there who's smart enough and capable enough and adult enough to do that. We don't want to let go of the idea that the authority figures that are authority figures are just people. They're just people doing people things. And some of those people things are shitty, and some of those people things are good, and some of those people things are in the middle. We want to buy into the narrative that there's a plan, even if that plan is horrible, because that feeds our childhood nervous system that there are people out there who know. And then they tell us, but don't worry because this group of people is going to save us. So we have the villain and the good guy. And then you can identify with the good guy and feel good about yourself. Or they give you this whole wild theory that triggers your nervous system into fight or flight, like, oh my God, now I know the truth, and the truth is horrible, and it's this whole big plan, it's this big conspiracy, and I gotta tell everybody, and I gotta convince everyone, and nervous system. And then they give you some very pseudo non-answer for what the solution is. We all just need to rise in love. What does that mean? Okay, right? Like you just told me that there's this whole satanic pedophile ring going on. And that the answer is rise in love? Like if that's actually true, how in the world is that going to stop what's happening? Right? You walk away with something that has triggered your nervous system. It's this whole big plan, this big cabal, this big whatever it is. And it explains what you think you're seeing in the world that's happening on the internet, not even necessarily to you, or even a little bit to you, that like way conspiracizes what's happening, comes up with this huge outlandish reason for it, and then gives you no solution. No steps for what you can do. No actual anything. And so you either walk away thinking, I'm woke and I'm so much better than everyone else, or you walk away completely traumatized and freaking out with literally no tools for what you could even do about it if it were true. And then you are addicted to that. You get addicted to that adrenaline, you get addicted to that thinking you're knowing, and then you can't stop watching. You watch every documentary, you watch everything that comes out, you watch everything they say, because you're afraid you're going to miss something. That's your nervous system. Right? And then we get so afraid when someone says, let's stop watching that stuff for a little bit. Let's stop watching it for a little bit, and let's regulate our nervous systems for a little while. And see what actually resonates when we're not in fight or flight. Because that scares you even more. Because that's like, well, no, because then I'm going to miss something. And then something's going to happen, and I'm not going to be aware of it, and then I'm not going to be able to stop it, and then, I'm going to die. Okay, right? So if this is what your alternative news feels like to you, gets you in by complimenting how much more woke you are than everyone else. Makes you feel special. Like you're in the inner circle. Okay, they're preying on the fact that you already feel like an outcast. And you want to feel like everyone who outcasted you is wrong. So that you can feel better about yourself. Because really you feel shitty that you're an outcast. Second thing, you do understand that not everything that we're being told is true. And that mainstream, and you're disenfranchised, and you maybe got really hurt by that, right? Because we all did. We all were children who needed to believe that the authority figures in our lives had our best intentions at heart. And when we start to learn that that's not true, we all flip. Everyone who learns, when they finally learn that people are just people and they're not caring about you, like some of us learned that from our caregivers. Like our caregivers didn't even care about us, or couldn't care about us in the way that we needed them to, or they didn't have our best interests at heart. And some of us didn't learn that till teachers or government or bosses, or like we get out into the world and then we realize, oh my God, this world isn't set up for me. And then we go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole because we just learned that the world isn't for us. And we all have that experience at some point. So they're preying on that. And then they take something that looks like it's happening. They give you a crazy theory for why it's happening that involves high levels of both organization and stupidity on the parts of the people who are doing it. So they're organized enough to be having this whole big control thing of whatever they're doing, running whatever they're running, but they're not organized enough to keep it off the internet. They're not organized enough to not have it be us knowing about it. And they're being taken down somehow by magic person, magic group. So good, if you just like feel like you're in alignment with that group, you can feel like you're a good person and you're doing it. Or they stimulate you into, it's this huge big thing, and here's vague platitude for what you can do about it. That leaves you really just feeling like you need to just watch and convince everyone, and everyone who doesn't believe what you believe is a sheeple and they're retarded or they're going to die, and you feel like you have to tell everyone, otherwise the whole world is going to come crashing down. If that's how it feels, you're being manipulated. There may be some truth to what they're saying, but you're not seeing it and you're not hearing it. And I know that this is hard to take in. And same thing, if it triggers you into that, like, well, I know so much better than everyone else. I'm just superior. I'm just going to sit and wait this out. That's flight. Okay? Real truth, when we come on real truth, number one, it's going to be hoofbeats, it's going to be horses, not zebras. There's a saying in medicine that when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. The most simple solution is almost always the right one. So, for instance, is there child sex trafficking? Yeah. Is there possibly a simpler solution for why it's happening? We are a traumatized group of people. There are several different groups of people not organized with each other. Children run away for reasons of being abused and abandoned in their homes. There's reasonable explanations for how these things happen. And it's not a big conspiracy. It's damaged people doing damaged people things. And the real solution is community involvement. The more of us that are available for our communities, the more of us so this is what I'm going to be talking about when I talk about the solution here, the third way, is we need to check into reality, our actual realities. Change is not going to happen on the high level. Change is going to happen from each individual starting to show up and be present in their actual lives, doing what is pertinent for our actual experience in every moment. Because, again, sex trafficking, for instance, of children happens because people are traumatized, number one. People got traumatized in their childhood. They were abandoned, they were abused, they were ridiculed, very deeply damaged. And then those people go out into the world and are shamed and blamed and told that they're wrong and they're bad and they're pathologized, and we ridicule them and cast them out even more. So then they get caught in doing these things. And again, that are to them self-preservation. It's their wires got all crossed, their love map got all messed up. They're hurting individuals. They're not broken, messed up. And they behave the way that they're behaving because none of us are paying attention. Children run away. Children get caught in the sex trade. They put themselves in the sex trade because their families are abusive, because they don't have the resources to take care of their kids. And this whole system of passing on trauma happens. And these children get abused, they get abandoned, they run away, they get in the sex trade. This is what happens. These people who are hurting go for the sex trade. It's a whole bunch of hurting people doing what they think they should be doing to self-preserve. Because there isn't community support. There isn't resources. We aren't here for each other as a humanity. We're all completely disconnected, living our nuclear lives on the internet. That's why these things happen. Governments take control because citizens are so distracted and we don't want to have to pay attention and we don't want to have to participate. We want to just give our power away because we're busy doing something else. We don't want to work for it. We don't want to look after it. That's part of what happens, especially in democratic countries. We're saying we don't want to participate. We vote with our dollars. That's another big thing. Where we spend our money, who we spend our money on, why we spend our money, where we pay attention. That's what we're voting for. That's the world we're saying we want in an economy where capitalism is how it works. So when I say this is the time to go in, what I mean is, again, we can't keep acting from fight or flight. When we hear about the things that are going on in the world, mainstream, alternative, it doesn't matter. If we're activated into fight or flight, we are not going to create a solution. And it is simple as that. We have done this over and over and over and over again as a humanity. If you look out humanity forever, every generation thinks this is the worst it's ever been. We're all going to die. There's no time for navel gazing now. We got to act now. We got to do this now. If we don't do this now is the only time. We don't have time. Every generation we think that. And I think we can all look at our own individual lives and see that we do that. We resist this idea of I need to slow down and question what I believe and figure out how to be in nervous system regulation first and then figure out what the truth is. We're all in reaction, response, and we're being manipulated into being like that too, right? The constantly being inundated with these really scary messages, that's a tool by the alternative and the regular media. Both are using it to keep us distracted from ourselves and reality and what's going on right now in our lives. That constant stream of fear is a distraction. That constant feeling like you need to be doing something is a trauma response. That is not higher wisdom. Okay? So when we slow down, yes, it's gonna hurt. There's going to be all these emotions and all this stuff, and you can go back and watch all my other videos on how to process that stuff. Come join my mystery school. Whatever you get a therapist, like I say, I have 100 gillion videos for free. You might find someone else on the internet that you really resonate with that helps you do your processing. Whatever it is, however you learn how to be inside your body, how to feel your feelings, how to start to interpret what your feelings are telling you. This is how you're going to learn to discern what is and isn't truth for yourself. so that you can't be manipulated by anyone. Because being manipulated by the alternative media is not different than being manipulated by the mainstream media. It's just being manipulated by somebody different, but it's not different. We need to step into, I am not available for emotional trigger. I am not available for emotional manipulation. Because I am grounded inside my body. I can feel when something doesn't feel right. I can feel when something doesn't feel right. Because that is the thing. Feeling has no time. You want to enter timelessness, be in your feeling. Because what this really means is, the second you come into contact with something, your feeling will tell you whether it's real or not, whether it's in alignment with the structure or out of alignment with the structure. You don't need to go through a process of time, of doing it, experiencing it, seeing the outcome, analyzing that outcome, understanding the outcome in order to understand. Your feelings will tell you. But most of us right now are in a state where we interpret our anxiety as this must be true. And it's not. That's not how truth feels. Truth feels like okay, right? It may be something we don't like. It may be something we didn't want to hear. It might be stimulating on some level. But it's going to feel like, okay, this is the truth. And it's going to feel grounded. It's not going to feel manic. And it's not going to feel depressive. There's going to be a feeling of liberation. Even if it's something we really didn't want to hear. There's going to be this like lightness feeling to it. And second thing, real truth is going to actually empower you to take a reasonable next step in your life. We all need to join in love. That is not a reasonable next step. That's not a solution. What does that even mean? When you walk away from that, is that a practical thing? No. And if it's not practical, it's not useful. Truth will always have a level of practicality. No matter how high level it is, there will be a level of, okay, what does it mean to rise in love? Like my definition of that means I'm going to show up in my community and start to be aware of how my choices feel, and then noticing the impact beyond myself. If every human being did that, I'm going to notice how my choices feel and really look at their impact beyond just myself. This immediate moment. There would be no room for any of the shit that's going on the planet to be going on. And if the world is made up of individuals, if the systems we have are built on how individuals are acting, and we don't like the system, we are the one individual we have any control over. So if we're really saying we want a new world, and then we're going out trying to convince everyone else, you don't have control over anyone else. That is not where your power is. And as much as that hurts, and it feels so small to just work on yourself, that is your impact on the world. Your impact on the world is your day-to-day choices. It's not your book. It's not your Facebook posts. It's not your social justice movement. That stuff is all great if it's aligned with what your moment is right now. But ultimately, how you eat, how you sleep, how you speak to your partner, how you speak to the cashier, where you spend your money, how you react to your emotional triggers, that, because you do that 100 gabillion times a day. That's your impact. The book you do one time, and it's intellectual. It's not going to change anyone. It might spark something in someone that they were already going to do, but then they have to do the work to change themselves. So what's important, what matters, is how you live your life day to day. And being love means being present with reality. You want to have a positive impact on this world? Start with yourself. Start with loving that inner child. Start with being with your trauma. And I know we don't want to. And we're all going to say the world doesn't have time for that. And if I do that, I'm going to miss it. And blah, 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 blah. No. We've always thought that forever and ever. You have time. If you have time to go talk about it on social media, you have time to go be inside yourself. If you have time to go watch that other documentary, you have time to go be inside yourself. They are not going to tell you the truth because they don't have it. No one has it. Anyone on media is looking for eyeballs. They're not looking to tell you the truth. Because the truth isn't inflammatory. The truth isn't going to stimulate your nervous system. The truth isn't going to get eyeballs. Everyone tells me, why doesn't anyone why is your channel so small? Because I'm not inflammatory. I'm not talking about law of attraction and all the things that get views. Because I can't, it's whatever. The point is, real stuff is just, you got to be with yourself. Love that inner child. Grow your inner sense so that you can start to feel what things feel like when they are presented to you. And then you can discern what is real and what isn't. And then that filters out into how you behave. Okay, so that's why this is not navel gazing. When you do your inner work, it changes how you behave on this planet. And every individual doing that would create the world we want to create. So if you're telling me we don't have time for this, I'm telling you it's the only thing we have time for. There is no other way. We've done the fight-flight thing. Humanity's been fighting with itself and each other and being disconnected and arguing forever. And is it getting us what we want? No. And we can't become not something, right? We're not going to just tear down a system. We don't dismantle. That's not how change happens. We have to be building the new thing. Because even if we dismantle these things that we think are so evil, we're going to put something back in its place that's exactly what it was before, because we didn't learn. What was the need that that thing was serving? How was that a thing of self-preservation? What were the needs being met by the past system, and how can we meet those needs in a higher way? That's evolution. How is this working for us? Are the questions we need to ask ourselves. And how can we get how is this not working for us? And so what can we do with what's not working? How can we evolve what's not working to meet our needs better? How can we be in our communities more? How can we support humanity more? How can we look at the people we are calling evil and say, what happened to them? Why are they there? Why are they like that? Why is humanity like that? How am I perpetuating that? Where am I participating in that? How are they maybe not evil? Maybe they're just human and they actually believe that they're doing something good. How do I create the world I want to create? By being the person I want to be first. In my community. In my life. Don't spend all your time arguing on Facebook. It's not your impact. And so again, this is the only thing we have time for. If we want a new world, we have to do something we've never done before. And we've never had a group of people all stopping and regulating their nervous systems before they act. We have had loud protests, and we've had lots of groups of people that just want to pull away and check out. And it doesn't work. So if we're seeing that over and over and over again, the protesters don't work. The loud voices trying to tear things down, where we just put something back in its place that was what it was before, right? There have been some examples in history where we've actually self-reflected on what created this and what do we want to do instead so that that never happens again. Those are the countries that have made progress. That's happened before. Germany took a hard look at itself and said, How did we get there? How did that happen? And what do we want to do as a nation to make sure that never happens again? And their education system, their government, the way that they work is completely revolutionized. That's how change happens. Self-reflection. How did we get here? What do we want to do instead? What do we want to create instead? What were the needs being met by that? And how can we meet those needs in a higher way? Self-reflection is what creates real change. We need to see things for how they really are. No one is evil. And no one is good. Everyone is doing what they think they should be doing. There is not the adult out there who knows better than you. Stop letting yourself be manipulated. I know it's scary to think that you have to be the adult in your life. But you have to be the adult in your life. And you start by loving your inner child. And like I say, that's hard work. So that's why I make all these videos and I do all this stuff in the mystery school and everything. I give you the tools to do that. You need to regulate, start to come into your actual present moment, and then understand that whatever you actually need to do in your present moment will be available in your present moment. When you actually have power and there's something you need to be doing, if you're present, you'll see it, you'll know it, and you'll do it. You don't need to watch every documentary. You don't need to listen to everything. You don't need to read all this. Blah, blah, blah. That's not where the information is. Be in your life. Be present and aware in your life. When you're driving and you're 400 steps ahead of yourself on Google Maps, that's how you get into a car accident. Be in your moment. Sure, look at the map. But the car right in front of you is more important than the 40th turn up ahead. And again, how you get into a car accident is by focusing on the 40th turn, not the car in front of you. We need to be here. All that shit can't happen if we're here. If we are in our moments and we're in our communities and we're in our feelings, that's where change happens. Okay? So please, this is the only thing we have time for. If we want something we've never had, we have to do something we've never done. A whole bunch of people changing the way that they live because we're no longer in fight or flight is how we're going to get a new world. So doing your inner work is the only answer. There is no other option. We've tried all the other options over and over and over again. We're not getting the results we want. So that's that. I hope I explained it good enough. If not, all right. But yeah, again, so just when you look at your media, feel how you feel. Does it feel like truth or does it feel like stimulation? And if it feels like stimulation and it doesn't give you a real solution, it might just be manipulation. Go inside. Feel for yourself what's real, what's going on in your actual reality. You will know. You do have the capacity to know. And if you focus on your moment, you will always know what you need to do. You won't miss it. You won't get sidelined. Because if you're really paying attention, you'll see it. And it's not on the internet. It's in real life. Okay? So I love you. You're amazing. You're perfect. You're good already. You're acceptable. There's nothing wrong with you. You're manipulated by these things not because it's not you. It's not you. You were traumatized. That's not your fault. None of this is your fault. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're worthy. It's safe to go inside. Okay? So just be with that. I love you. You're perfect. And I'll see you next week. Mwah.